Hello and welcome to round 14 here at Grand Prix Portland. We've got an incredible win-and-in matchup here to see who's going to make it into the top 4 of our Grand Prix. On the left of our screen we have the team of Sam Black, the 13th ranked player in the world, Matt Severa and Gaudenis Vidugiris. On the right of our screen though, it's numbers 2, 3 and 4 in the current top 25 player rankings. Owen Turtenwald, William Jensen, Reid Duke. We're starting with the biggest match really of all of them, which is the one between Sam Black and Owen Turtenwald. But really, having to pick a best match here is kind of tough because all these players just fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very powerful team against a very powerful team. The originally Madison-based team on the left of Sam Black, Matt Severa, and Gaudenis Vidugiris. Gaudenis has had a ton of Pro Tour success himself. He has a Pro Tour top 8. He has many Grand Prix top 8s. He is, a titan in his own right who, he's a lawyer. He has a real job, and yet he still manages to crush these Magic tournaments every once in a while. The other side of the table, these guys play Magic. That's what they do.
Yeah, this is their job. What we're seeing here is them going to work.
Yes.
And we can see Owen Turtenwald, he's had a great start, an Elvish Mystic powering out, Satyr Wayfinder, Warden of the Watch, and that there, a Sun Guard Pegasus, and just the Satyr Wayfinder at the moment for Sam Black, who's playing things a little bit slower, but doesn't mean to say that he's had a particularly bad draw. His blue-green deck, it's hitting its lands. Interesting here that he's passed without a spell, though.
Yeah, and with no spell here, that's going to be pretty rough for Sam Black. I mean, he doesn't even have that 4th land that would have been so nice. Or I guess he... Oh, no, so he's got Plummet in hand. That's what's going on, and that was only his 3rd turn, so...
And there's also a Turn to Frog there, so there's a number of options available to him in terms of ways of killing off something this turn. And he just wants to pass with Mana Up in order to do that. So there's the Plummet. He doesn't want that Pegasus growing any bigger or scarier. And this, the green Doomblade of sorts, in this case, it doesn't really matter. I mean, there's some removal spells where your opponent can go over the top and sort of Titanic growth their way out of trouble. Not going to work with Plummet. It's just going to kill a flyer. And here a big Siege Worm coming down on turn 4 for Owen Turtenwald. The Satyr Wayfinder working just as well as Elvish Mystic in terms of lessening the cost of that worm. 5/5, a dominating creature on this board.
And, that's one of the reasons why Satyr Wayfinder is so strong in this set, because not only did it find Owen Turtenwald an extra land, but it also worked to convoke out that Siege Worm and left behind this body, which is going to affect the board in some way or another via something like Sanctified Charge or just trading with a 1 toughness creature from the other end of the board.
So a Turn to Frog on Siege Worm means that it's likely to get into a fight that it's going to be losing here. Sam shows that he's got 4 cards in hand. Looks like he's got a Siege Worm of his own that's going to come along at some point.
And as early as next turn.
Yeah, so he blocks his Runeclaw Bear, killing off that Siege Worm that was temporarily a 0/1 frog. And another land means that, yep, here's a Siege Worm from Sam Black. Let's see what kind of an answer Owen Turtenwald's deck has. An immediate Pillar of Light there. We've seen Pillar of Light just do so much work for white decks.
Yeah, and I mean, it's so good because the Warden of Beyond now gets pumped also, and now it's a 4/4 Vigilance. Just for
wow, I think that's
mana.
the first time that we've seen it as a 4/4 this weekend, or certainly for me at least. And this is a huge swing for Owen Turtenwald. He's able to get in just massive hits. Now Sam is going to be on just 10 life.
Yeah, Owen, a bit flooded here, but it seems that Sam, with a wow, and that's Soul of Zendikar. So
now, a quick sort of rule of thumb: once a Soul comes into play, the other player is not in great shape. Pretty much always.
The Souls are generally just completely busted.
Yeah, I mean, Pillar of Light already used, so getting rid of it going to be a lot trickier now. You send the Wanderer Bard coming in play for Owen Turtenwald here, but his teammate William Jensen sat just to his right is already a game down against Matt Severa. That one relatively quick, potentially some shaky draws on one side there for William Jensen, one would imagine, meaning that he's going to have to battle back or hope that his teammates can avenge him.
Yeah, Matt Severa, I believe, is also piloting the white deck of the team. So William Jensen could have had a reasonable draw and just gotten completely run over by Triplicate Spirits and Sanctified Charge.
So Soul of Zendikar here, asking a question of Owen Turtenwald, coming in here. Now, in principle, Owen could throw a whole bunch of his creatures in the way. And it may well be that that's actually not a bad choice. It looks like that's what he's doing. He's saying, fine, I had the early lead, but you know what? I just want to try and get this trade. But a Ranger's Guile here from Sam Black, meaning that his Soul of Zendikar will kill off all 3 of those creatures, won't die itself, and Sam Black has enough mana left over to use the Soul's ability this turn.
Yeah, I mean, that's about the best Ranger's Guile you're ever going to see in your entire life. When you pay 1 green mana and kill 3 of your opponent's creatures, including a 4/4 Vigilance, not too shabby.
And they're the first of potentially many beast tokens for Sam Black.
He can only make as many as before. He can only make so many before Owen loses the game.
This is true, yeah. And realistically, Yisan the Wanderer Bard, unlikely to have the time to really get through to the chorus on his big song. Go for the big encore. And Owen there saying, I'm not even going to search for a 1/1. I'm a 1-cost creature. I don't want to try and find it. Still has to shuffle though. Now, Owen Turtenwald does have some power in his deck. He's got 3 planes and he's got an Avacyn Guardian Angel, so he might be able to cast that at some point. There is another Pillar of Light in his deck, so if he draws that, that will certainly turn things around on Soul of Zendikar. 3 Satyr Wayfinders to help him with his mana, but mana is not the issue for Owen right now. The issue is all of the power on the other side of the board and the relative lack thereof on his.
Yeah, and I mean, this game basically came down to that Soul of Zendikar. Owen just had a huge advantage, and once Soul of Zendikar came down, it was just too much. The 6/6 body combined with the ability to just flood the board with beast tokens. Just unbelievable power there from that card.
Yeah, when I spoke to Owen yesterday about his sealed pool, his response was, it's excellent, I feel excellent. This may be the greatest sealed pool I've ever seen. Never one to mince his words there, Mr. Turtenwald. This time round, I've not seen him bouncing around the room quite as excitedly, but he's still got some plays here. Hunt the Weak there, meaning that his Pegasus getting that little bit bigger, so much more powerful with the lifelink once it's a little bit larger. Gain some life in that fight against Runeclaw Bear, and potentially you'll be able to attack in and gain a bit more life. But realistically, this is a race that he's on the wrong side of unless something changes fairly rapidly here. Sam Black, looking at his hand, puts it down on the table because the important things that are really going on are on the table already.
And that is the truth.
And the beasts coming right in. There's really nothing that Owen Turtenwald can do here in terms of powerful blocks. He's tapped out. He's got 1 untapped creature. Looks like he might be choosing to go to 1 here. And
yes, and I mean, even if Owen can find an answer now to Soul of Zendikar, I believe that Sam just drew Quickling on his last turn, so he can even protect that soul. Not that he would need to, because the beast would be enough to finish the game on their own.
So Owen scoots them up. It looks like Sam Black 1-0, Matt Severa 1-0. Can Gaudenis Vidugiris make it the sweep in game 1s against Reid Duke? We're going to have a little look right now. It looks like early game, Gaudenis has got plenty going on. He's got a Soul Mender, he's got a Midnight Guard, he's got lots of mana available to him. Whereas at the moment, all that Reid Duke has is just that Paragon there, which, while it's a powerful card, on its own, it doesn't pump itself.
Yeah, and it cannot give itself Death Touch either. Yeah,
Paragon of the Open Graves here, on its own, just a 4-mana 2/2. But with a Sadistic Hypnotist...
Cruel Sadist.
Cruel Sadist, yes, of course, sorry. Various mean people
yes.
doing mean things. Yeah. Yeah, the Cruel Sadist there, sitting back. It is a 2/2 immediately, and Death Touch potentially quite a nice combo with it because it can remove counters from itself once it's put them on to deal damage, but rather than having to remove lots and lots of counters in order to be able to kill off a big creature, you can give it Death Touch and just remove the 1 and ping things and just kill them off in one go.
Yeah, it's a really nice combo there. That's something that I've seen put together in this limited format a few times, and it's very strong when you can do it. Cruel Sadist here, just so strong. I mean, Reid has a healthy life total. He's going to be at 14 after this attack. It seems like he will have the time that he needs to start activating that repeatedly. And from the looks of it, in the other matches, William Jensen seems to have evened things up against Matt Severa. So they're
Quick revenge
boxing it
there.
out very fast in the middle match here.
I can't say I'm 100% surprised to see that Gaudenis is the match that's going kind of at a slightly slower pace. He is a very deliberate player, and we're going to get a chance to see what makes his deck tick fairly shortly, I'm sure. But, I mean, he's on 6 life, so I mean, worth pointing out that Reid Duke, you know, if he can just get a little bit more together, might be able to put this first game away, even with that Soul Mender on the other side of the board.
Yeah, the Soul Mender, I mean, it's going to likely gain Gaudenis another, 3 or 4 life before the Cruel Sadist actually interacts with it. But I don't think that's too big of a deal, especially with a Curse Spirit coming down on Reid's side of the table.
Yeah, I guess the Spirit is, I mean, it's just a very well-positioned card in this format. I mean, certainly here, it's very, very unlikely that Gaudenis is going to find much that's going to be able to block it. At best, it's going to be an artifact creature. A little bit more life gain here, though, for Gaudenis, so that he may be able to stem things a little bit, but how long is it going to be before we see some shotgun action here?
Yeah, and every other turn, Reid will be able to pay respectively 1 and then 4 mana to, or the Cruel Sadist costs 3 to activate the barrier
That's
ability?
correct,
So,
yes.
so 6 mana, 1 and then 6 to kill the creature of his choosing here. And
Build your own Vizara.
yes, tremendously powerful.
So Gaudenis draws for his turn. He's got plenty of mana available to him. And now's the sort of time that you kind of want to see something fairly big from Gaudenis if he's going to stay in this, because he's on 4 life. Ignoring any of this shooting down monsters standpoint, there's a 4-powered Accursed Spirit in play.
Yeah, and I mean, he's going to gain this 1 life, and a lot of people might be tempted to shoot that Pegasus before he gains that life, with him only at 4 there. But Reid much more deliberate, because you never know if he's just going to drop some massive creature in his second main phase, and if he does that, you're going to want to be able to give your Cruel Sadist Death Touch and then shoot something.
I mean, regardless of all this, there's a Soul Mender in play, so he gets a virtual extra life at some point anyway.
Exactly. So the number of turns will not be affected there.
So Vidugiris at 5, lots of mana available. He has cards in hand. Gaudenis very good at not giving a huge amount away about what he has in hand. His hand typically just sits on the table. He just knows what's in there. He remembers what's in there, and he's ready to flip things over. But right now, it looks like there's nothing that he can do about Reid Duke's start there. So Reid Duke picks up this first game. So at the moment,
2-2 in games.
yeah, the match completely tied, and Sam looks across to find out how things went for Go there. Not exactly what he wanted to hear, I'm sure, that Reid Duke picked up the first game. And Sam Black gets to look back at his own match here, where we see a couple of tokens representing the Owen Turtenwald's various teammates there. They're actually soldier tokens from Raise the Alarm, both 1/1s, along with the Pegasus there. Haunted Plate Mail. Now that's an interesting one, and very, very powerful indeed with the Pegasus, because
yeah, build your own Baneslayer Angel.
your favorite thing to do in Limited, right?
It is my favorite thing to do. I
I've
took
been paying
Insatiable
attention.
Harpy over like everything.
So yeah, those 1/1 soldiers in play there, unlikely to be the ones that get equipped, because once you take a life-linking flyer and say, actually it's not just a 1-power flyer, it's got quite a bit of power to work with, it becomes very dangerous indeed. And Netcaster Spider, which currently would be a fine blocker for it, is rapidly going to find itself outclassed.
You know, the thing is that Owen did play against Plummet in the previous game, and he's certainly going to remember that that's an option for Sam Black here. So I'm not sure if he's going to be so quick to equip that Sungrace Pegasus with the Haunted Plate Mail. Now, interesting play from Sam here. Sam has the Forest in hand and instead chooses to oh no, he didn't have the Forest in hand, but he had the option of taking a Forest off that Satyr Wayfinder and leaving open Plummet mana to deal with Haunted Plate Mail Sungrace Pegasus, and instead chose to play the island. This in many ways baits Owen into using his turn to equip that Haunted Plate Mail and gives Sam more breathing room to start playing more powerful spells from his end.
I mean, I guess that's true. I mean, the way that I see it is that the downside to equipping the Pegasus right now is comparatively low. I mean, he's going to be able to... I mean, the best that Sam Black's going to be able to do with this mana is Turn to Frog. But Turn to Frog...
Well, he could plummet it.
Well, not with blue mana.
Yeah, exactly, but had he taken the Forest, he would have been able to.
Oh, yes, absolutely. But
Yeah.
I'm saying that with the situation as it is, I'm not sure how much baiting's really going on here. Like, the fact that you're gaining 4 life off the attack means that sort of you've dealt your damage, you've gained your life. I don't think you've actually lost that much board position by getting in those hits.
Oh, yeah, and that's what I'm saying, is that he's encouraging him to equip the Haunted Plate Mail to the Sungrace Pegasus so that he gets more value off of his Plummet, as opposed to Owen playing around Plummet and just equipping a soldier on the following turn.
We'll soon see what it is that Owen Turtenwald wants to do here. There we go. He likes building Baneslayers too. Gets a hit in, goes up to 21, takes Sam Black down. Sorry, goes up to 22, takes Sam Black down to 15. 23?
Yeah, and you know, now he just made Owen sink an entire turn into equipping that Haunted Plate Mail, whereas otherwise, I imagine if he had left open green-blue as opposed to blue-blue, you know, he would not have been able to cast that Living Totem, but Owen certainly would not have equipped the Sungrace Pegasus into that mana.
So, big attacks here from Sam Black, looking to get a bit of damage in there. The Netcaster Spider not doing a whole lot, and this helps sell the idea that it's not really going to be able to block that Pegasus, which is... He's now actually playing a Void Snare on the Pegasus rather than anything else. So, I mean, in many respects, this could tie up way more of Owen Turtenwald's time even than a Plummet, because he recasts it, potentially re-equips it, and then the Plummet comes. And you've triple time walked.
Exactly. It's just such a huge tempo play here for Sam Black. And that's one of the most important things in a game of Limited, is just using your mana more efficiently than your opponent. And when you're making your opponent pay to equip a Haunted Plate Mail multiple times, and then, you know, effectively dealing with it each respective time, then you end up very far ahead on the board once all is said and done, and then it's pretty easy to run away with the game. Yeah,
and tempo play really more than anything else, but ultimately, if you're doing things and your opponent's functionally not really doing anything, sooner or later, they're dead and you're not.
Very true.
So here everything comes. It looks like the Living Totem might not be living for a whole lot longer.
It's a dying totem at this point.
Moribund totem, if you will. The Netcaster Spider quite happily getting through without any blocks at all, and one soldier token hanging about there for Owen Turtenwald.
Let's see. That Plummet still in Sam Black's hand. Very patient here. He may also be aware of the Avacyn that's in Owen's deck. It's another thing that, I mean, here I imagine he's just going to go ahead and Plummet.
Yep, there we go. And there's Warden of the Beyond. So currently a 2/2 Vigilance, nothing exiled at present. But with Pillar of Light, there's always the possibility that that might at some point change. And Quickling there for Sam Black.
Yeah, producing a little bit of card advantage with that Quickling. The 1/1 would have been unable to affect combat anyway on the following turn, so it's not really too big of a disadvantage to return that to his hand. And by recasting that, he gets to find an extra land, essentially drawing another card.
I mean, Quickling does a huge amount of different things for the decks that it's played in. Often you get to replay a coming into playability, sometimes you get to save your creature, and sometimes it's just, well, it's a way of making a relevant creature where previously there was an irrelevant one at the end of turn that can immediately start attacking, because a 2/2 flyer is pretty solid and limited.
Definitely. At 2 mana in limited, 2/2 flyer is something that you're not going to get much better than.
And it's pretty much a 2/2 flyer with haste, often. So Turtenwald now down to just 9 life. And an Illusory Angel as the follow-up. So that a 4/4 flyer. If we said that 2/2 flyers are good, 4/4 flyers are pretty spectacular, assuming you can cast them reasonably. And while Illusory Angel has a little bit of a challenge to casting it, when there's a Satyr Wayfinder leading the way, you know, spreading some rose petals around, Illusory Angel quite happy to come as the vanguard there.
Warden of the Beyond here, attacking into the 4/4, 1/3, and 1/1 on Sam Black's side of the board. Is it a gambit, or does this mean that Owen has something special in his hand here? And I believe...
Well, there's Avacyn. We got a game on our hands now because not only is Avacyn in play, it's in play with 7 mana, and 7 mana is very important when it comes to Avacyn because she's got 2 abilities once you look past the flying and the vigilance. The first one is that you can pay 2 to prevent all damage that we dealt to another target creature this turn by sources of a colour of your choice. The bigger one though, 7 mana, prevent all damage that we dealt to target player this turn by sources of the colour of your choice. So potentially from next turn onwards, Owen can turtle up, if you will.
Yes, he can blank blue or green depending on how Sam chooses to attack.
In the meantime, potentially able to attack through if you can find a way of dealing with that Netcaster Spider. Big Genesis Hydra here. Let's see what we got. 5 cards off the top of his deck. Looking for something that cost 5 or less. And that not a bad pickup there.
It's about as good as it gets.
So, but it sounds like we're going to go to another table. We're going to go to our match between Reid, Duke and Gaudenis, Vidugiris, because potentially here, that match might not end up being too important if Reid can win this game right now, because William Jensen already won his match against Matt Severa. He took a hit and he did the Bruce Lee bloody mouth thing and just bounced back way harder.
Yeah.
Won it out there. And if Reid Duke can win this one, then actually the match against Sam Black, not going to be one that matters. Let's have a look at those live totals.
Doesn't look too good for Reid at this point, though. He's at 30, so he has a bit of time. But with only 3 lands in play, and looking at
13. There we go.
Yes. Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes a bit more sense. With only 3 lands in play, it's not looking too good at this point.
Those
for Reid
Seraph
Duke.
of the Masses are more like Seraph of the Massive.
Yes.
Because with 6 creatures in play, a pair of 6/6 flyers,
7/7s,
8/8s. This could be all be squared up here. Gaudenis could take the second game. So, all right, now we'll jump back to see a little bit more of Sam Black versus Owen Turtenwald, because we just wanted to catch the end of that game. Potentially could have, if it'd gone the other way, could have been the end of the match overall. Not a huge amount that's changed on this board. That little live look in working just fine for us. Looks like Owen content to continue playing threats rather than letting Sam Black just sort of build a board up to the point that Avacyn doesn't matter. Hunt the weak there, meaning that all of a sudden, not only is his Angel a little bit bigger, but there's one less 3/3 flyer on the other side of the board.
And he gets to attack for 6 there with the Avacyn and still leave it on defense. Avacyn is incredible. 5/4 flying vigilance for 5, already so powerful and limited, and then put those other stats on and
does it all.
It
seems like a card to me that is going to be in conversation for Constructed also. Triple white is a difficult casting cost, but there are plenty of Craig Wescos of this world that like their white decks, and I think it's hard to ignore the sheer power there. So Illusory Angel and Quickling coming in, and now we see Owen Turtenwald faced with a bit of a choice, because while the cheaper ability on Avacyn can prevent damage to creatures, it's only to other creatures, can't prevent damage to Avacyn herself. So if this is a pump spell, which it looks like it might be, then a Pillar of Light in response to a pump spell, meaning that not only is that Warden of the Beyond now bigger, but successfully Avacyn has been defended and able to take down one of the threats that Sam Black was sending through. Though Sam Black has plenty of threats, as it turns out. Colonian Twin Grove coming down with a token. Each of those tree folk a 5/5 creature, and only going to get bigger if he plays more forests.
Owen does have a Titanic Growth in his sideboard. Not sure if it would have came in here, but if it did, that top deck would allow him to win the game on this very turn.
I mean, at some point, the Haunted Plate Mail, it seems like Owen's been a little bit cagey about using it since he got caught out on Plummet. But at some point, it's going to make what's already a reasonable-sized creature into an entirely unreasonable one. For now, Owen, though, saying, I'm going to keep playing lands, and playing lots of lands not so bad when I've got these awesome activated abilities. And there's the Soul of Theros. Oh, sorry, Soul of Zendikar. Huge amount of mana available to both players, and both of them with big abilities. But the one that Sam Black has in play, he's going to be able to just pump out beasts every turn, and it doesn't take too many beasts to swarm around. Now, the interesting bit will be, given that Avacyn can say, I'm going to stop all green damage to me. Oh, this could be the problem. So, into the Void, sorry, Void Snare there, bouncing Avacyn. Now, Owen responds by both preventing damage that would be dealt to Warden of Beyond by a colour, let's assume green, and preventing damage to him from a colour, let's assume green. And that means that Sam Black only able to capitalise on the turn without Avacyn to deal 2 points of damage with quickly. Now the other thing that the Void Snare has done was, in principle, if Owen didn't have that last land, was when he recast Avacyn, he wouldn't then be able to use the big expensive ability on the Angel. Now, conveniently, normally you don't want to be drawing lots of extra lands, but with 12 lands in play, Owen able to recast Avacyn and be able to activate the Guardian Angel to keep him alive, even in the face of a terrifying amount of threats from Sam Black.
This game is just absurd here. We see Aether Spouts now in Sam Black's hand, which you know, could potentially deal with this Avacyn once it matters.
He's equipping it. It's got vigilance, and it's absolutely huge. He's resisted attacking. Such self-control here. Aether Spouts is going to be a heartbreaker for Owen Turtenwald on just 1 life now. And
that last turn, he hypothetically could have attacked because Sam didn't have enough mana for the
Well, there's still
Aether
Netcaster Spider in play, and it does have a +1/+1 counter. I don't know if I'd fancy that attack.
That's true. I mean, it doesn't actually win you the game, and you know, if Sam happens to have a trick, then you end up just losing. And you also don't know if Sam, who has less cards in his library now, can even beat the Avacyn from here. Like, he's already used a Void Snare. He's already used a Plummet. Does Sam have another card that can get this Avacyn off the table?
I mean, ultimately, he's only got 1 point of damage to deal. If he can just get some blue threats on the board. I mean, the worry is that in principle you might have a situation where Turtenwald can get 14 mana in play, and if he's got 14 lands in play, that means that actually he can activate on both colours, and then I honestly can't see how it's possible for Sam Black to win, assuming that Avacyn stays around.
All right, so we're going to switch over to the match between Gaudenis Vidugiris and Reid Duke, because if Reid ends up winning that game, then this match is over.
So here we see, initially, the run of the play seems to be with Gaudenis Vidugiris. He's had to raise the alarm. He's got a Paragon in play to make those soldier tokens 2/2s. Meanwhile, not a whole lot going on for Reid Duke. He's played a couple of copies of Sign in Blood, which means his life total's not so happy. He's drawn a few extra cards, but not necessarily leveraged them into too much board advantage. All right, fine, everything's changed. Nightfire Giant immediately with a mountain makes this board quite different indeed. The Giant itself, huge, as implied by the name. On top of that, you can tap 5 lands and deal 2 damage to target creature. I'm guessing starting off with that Paragon.
Yep, and once that Paragon's off the table, Gaudenis Vidugiris' board becomes a lot less threatening. Those two 2/2 soldiers become petty 1/1s.
Pa! I say to the 1/1.
Yes. And
as does the Giant, I'm sure.
Yes. And we know that Reid has tons of gas remaining in his hand after casting both of those copies of Sign in Blood. So the pressure is on Gaudenis Vidugiris to win this game in as short of a time frame as possible, but can he even attack into this Nightfire Giant? And if he does, can Reid Duke afford to take the damage, or will he block here? That's what we have to find out.
Yeah, it's a really tough spot on this one. That sort of, it's in the balance. We know that this is where Reid Duke, if he can just win this game, he wins the whole match. If Sam Black wins his game, then it's still going on. And Owen, the best that he can do is square things up. We are going to have a little look back on that match fairly shortly if this one doesn't look decisive, because we know that that one is in the balance. Triplicate Spirits here from Gaudenis means that there's the potential that actually Gaudenis might be able to square things up over here and win over Reid Duke. So when we get to just a neat moment, we will be able to jump back and see what's going on with Sam Black and Owen Turtenwald. Hey, look, it's a really busy board, an awful lot of lands and Avacyn. I don't feel like our little jump across has missed us too much.
Yeah, I don't think
the
anything's
Wandering
really
Bard
changed
is the
since
addition, and that potentially an important one because it means that Owen Turtenwald is going to be able to build up his board. He's not going to be getting boars, beast tokens, sorry, but some of the things might even just be better. Like as Yisan gets bigger and better, he's able to fetch some very, very powerful cards. And as mentioned earlier, if Owen gets up to 14 lands in play, how many he's got at the moment? One.
It looks like he's getting pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, if he has 14 lands and he sits there and doesn't tap mana, I don't believe that he's drawn as many cards as Sam Black has, and he can stop all the blue and all the green damage. Now that assumes that there's literally not a single answer left in Sam Black's deck for that Avacyn. But realistically, how many answers are there to a now 9/8 flying vigilance creature?
Yeah, I don't think Sam has. Let's check it out. We can.
I mean, he has Ether Spouts, so bizarrely we're in a situation where if Owen Turtenwald ever blinks and decides, you know what, I want to kill you, he could be in trouble.
Oh, so Sam also has a second copy of Void Snare in his deck, but at this point I don't know if Void Snare is good enough. Because it's not an instant.
Yeah, because you can respond to the Void Snare by giving protection from both colors, and you can then replay the Avacyn and have protection from one color, and basically all of the threats that Sam Black has are green.
Yeah, this is pretty incredible, this game at this point.
So many tokens, so much in play for Sam Black, and it must be kind of frustrating for him. I mean, each of those Colonian Twin Grove tokens, and indeed the Twin Grove itself, is colossal. In any other normal game state, this would be just...
And Sam Black, no cards left in his deck. Here
oh
he is.
My.
Owen Turtenwald, it looks like he was able to do this. He was able to deck his opponent.
This is a very classy way to win the game.
This is a beautiful, beautiful showing here from Owen Turtenwald.
Owen says, he puts his arm out to be able to tap. Oh, this is interesting.
Oh.
One option he might have is Sam can attack and cast Ether Spouts to bounce his own attackers back to his deck to not deck himself.
But the match just ended, actually. Reid Duke won that other game.
Hey, look. Our look-in should have stayed on the other game. I'm very happy to have seen this, but it may well be that we don't even have to see Sam's... So Sam does Ether Spouts creatures back into his deck. He can choose which ones he wants on the top and which on the bottom, so it's not quite a plain shuffle. But one way or another, it's still in rough shape here. And I'm sure that if I'm Owen at this point, I just turn around and say, well, look, yes, you've got 4 more turns. Does it make any difference whatsoever? Also, my team's already won the match.
Yes, my team has already won the match, and I think Owen just loses at this point because he has less cards in library. And it's not like Owen's going to punch through and...
Oh, has Owen just got 2 cards left himself?
He has 3 cards left.
Oh, my. I mean, Avacyn means he's not going to die to damage. He can pay 7 mana to prevent all damage of a particular color to him. But, I mean, I guess now that the Ether Spouts is gone, can he set up an attack?
Yeah, I mean, now he's attacking with Avacyn repeatedly. This game is awesome. I'm really happy that they're continuing to play, even though I
mean, Netcaster Spider fogs 1 turn. But the Avacyn can attack for... Oh, Avacyn... Oh. Avacyn taps to a Siege Worm. All right, fair enough.
Well, now all of Sam's creatures are green, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. What a game of Magic the Gathering.
This was played so beautifully by Owen Turtenwald. It's very hard to quantify how difficult it was to win this game. And, I mean, he's not out of the woods yet with just 2 cards left in his library.
I mean, there's 2 Netcaster Spiders now.
Oh, there's a pair of Netcasters at this point?
Yeah. And that enough, I mean, in total, that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 power of blocking on a flyer Netcaster Spider. So actually, Avacyn can't attack in. I mean, both players, masterful. I don't know if I would have seen the Ether Spouts to stay alive by returning my things to my own deck. This is crazy. Casting Ether Spouts
And that's it.
on yourself.
Owen gets decked. The personal Aether Spouts to put cards back in the top of your library. Good enough for Sam Black.
I'm sure that